Welcome to Jets Overtime. Our free agency preview is presented by Moody's. I'm Eric Allen, joined by Quincy Enunwa. Soon we'll hear from Jets GM Joe Douglas and check in with Caroline Hendershot and Ethan Greenberg. Quincy, the offseason provides the Jets a chance to improve for free agency and the draft. That free agency market opens next week.
Yeah, and it's an exciting time for every team, but especially the Jets. Last year we had the excitement of Aaron Rodgers. Where's he going to go? Is he going to come to the Jets? This year we have Aaron Rodgers, but now it's okay. What kind of weapons are we going to bring on the offensive side? And some more little weapons on the defensive side as well.
So let's follow up right there. Let's talk about team needs. What stands out to you about where the Jets have to address some holes in free agency?
Yeah, well, Woody Johnson talked about it a little bit. He said they need a backup quarterback. You look at last year, Aaron Rodgers went down, and there just wasn't enough consistency on the back end right there. Obviously, you need a backup quarterback, but then you need some guys to protect him, right? So you need an offensive line. So many different combinations on the O-line. You got to have some guys that are going to be in there and be consistent, perform at a high level.
Yeah, I think for the Jets, it all starts with that offensive line. 13 different starting combinations in 2023. Backup quarterback, they're going to try to address that here in free agency. Maybe another receiver to pair with Garrett Wilson on the defensive side of the ball. We're going to focus in on both defensive tackle and safety, I believe. How about Bryce Huff? Following a career year, he has an expiring contract. Q, this one's going to be interesting. The Jets want him back, but Huff is determined to see what his value is out there.
Yeah, I mean, he's a single guy now, right? He might be going to have a relationship. He might go back to his ex. We got to figure it out there. It's important for him to make sure he tests the waters, see what he wants. The Jets are giving him that opportunity. It may not be what he wants. He may have to come back to the Jets, but hopefully he's happy and the Jets are happy at the end of it.
Yeah, he was a great developmental story. You're talking about a guy who was a former undrafted free agent, leads the Jets in sacks last season. This is a defensive line that continues to get after you. Hey, Q, we're just getting started. Before Caroline and Ethan cover the Jets free agents, Pro Football Focus's Brad Spielberger will inform us what to keep in mind once the NFL shopping season begins.
In about 2 weeks' time in mid-March, we're going to start getting all these major contracts rolling in. The Schefters, the Rapports of the world, tweeting out these massive numbers, these average per years, these total values. Here's what you want to actually look at. You want to wait a little bit, see the year-to-year cash flows, see the guarantee structure of these contracts, and get into the weeds of how long is this deal actually probably going to last? How much protection does the team have? Does the player have? It's not the big flashy numbers. Think of an example here. Von Miller in Buffalo signs a 6-year, $120 million deal. It's a 3-year deal for $53 million. Like, you always have to wait, see the actual cash flow structure, see the guarantees. Don't fall for the big flashy numbers that get out there. Give it some time.
Ethan, we're going to take a look at some of the Jets with expiring contracts. Now, there are 21 unrestricted free agents, 12 of those guys coming from the defensive side of the ball, and a lot of key contributors that are not named Bryce Huff.
You're absolutely right. But in terms of other expiring contracts on the Jets defense, I'm looking at two positions. I'm looking at defensive tackle and safety. You're talking about guys at DT like Solomon Thomas, Quentin Jefferson, Al Woods, all those guys set to become free agents. The Jets like to rotate all across the board. They need depth next to Quinnen Williams. I'm interested to see what happens there. Then at safety, Jordan Whitehead, he's been a 2-year starter for the Jets. He started every game each of the past 2 seasons. He led the team in picks this past year, and one of the guys that got more run late in the year, that's Ashton Davis. He's really become a ball magnet for the green and white since he was drafted in the 3rd round in 2020. He's great on special teams, which is a plus for him, and his best football, Caroline, might be ahead of him.
Ashton Davis is a really good name to make people remember because I don't think he gets enough credit where credit is due. But also another name to remember, Chuck Clark. Chuck Clark got injured before training camp even began last year, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets really go after him again because he never really saw his time with the Jets. Now, if we look at the offensive side of the ball, I think the obvious position is that 4 offensive linemen have expiring contracts.
You know Joe Douglas is going to want to add to this room, not just this year, but every year, specifically the offensive line, whether that's free agency, the draft, the waiver wire, trade acquisition, whatever the case may be. When I'm looking at these names here, I'm interested to see what happens specifically with Mekhi Becton and Connor McGovern. And with McGovern, he's someone that the Jets signed last April, right? He wasn't a first-wave free agent, not a second-wave free agent. So maybe the Jets can make some moves later in the offseason that end up being key contributors like McGovern. And you also have to pay close attention to special teams. Thomas Morstead, Greg Zuerlein, Justin Hardy, all free agents, all coming off great years, key contributors to Brant Boyer's unit.
Yeah, and I like that you pointed out Greg Zuerlein, because from 2019 to 2021, the Jets struggled to find a consistent kicker. There were 7 different kickers during that time, and they found one with Greg Zuerlein, so I wouldn't be surprised if they really try to keep him on the roster. Now, the guy that's going to have to make all of those big decisions, GM Joe Douglas, you're going to hear from him coming up next. This is a Jets Overtime Special free agency preview presented by Moody's.
I like the position we're in. You know, there's a lot of talent coming back to this team. We have to add more to it. We know exactly what we have to do moving forward. And the pressure is always intrinsic in this job whenever you walk in every day. But I can tell you that we're not stressed. We're prepared.
Quincy, let's begin right there with Jets GM Joe Douglas, who addressed the media in Indianapolis. He said this team, this organization is prepared to answer the bell.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what you want to hear from your GM. A guy that's ready and prepared for whatever comes towards them. They want to come into the season feeling prepared, feeling structured, feeling strong about the season, and the GMs, it all starts at the top of the GM.
We haven't won enough. I mean, that's obvious. But weirdly enough, I feel like the culture's in a really good place with the people that we have. We just have to go out and do it. It's time to win. Everybody knows it, so it's time to put our heads down, work, and win games.
What do you make of what you heard from Joe D in Indianapolis saying that we haven't won enough, but weirdly enough, he feels that the culture is in a really good place as far as the people they have here?
Well, let's be honest, right? It's always about acknowledging your faults, and I'm glad that he said that, right? They didn't win enough, but they're also aware that the culture is exactly what they need, and that feels weird. It feels weird to hear as a fan, right? You want to have a winning culture, and it didn't feel like that last year, but you also got to look at some other factors involved in that, right? From the beginning to the end, there was a lot of ups and downs, but everybody stayed together.
Obviously, Bryce, unbelievable season, and a great teammate, great player. And a player is very deserving to find out what his value is in the open market. The plan is not to tag Bryce at that 21 plus number, but the plan is to continue talking with the agents. And look, ideally Bryce is back.
Q, this Bryce Huff situation is fascinating. Joe D talking about how great of a season he had in 2023, and the Jets want him back, but no tag on him.
It's a tough place to be at, right? You really want to show your value to the world, and when you don't feel like you'll be able to do that with the Jets, you want to have an opportunity to do that. And the Jets are like, hey, listen, we're not going to hold you back. We want you to have that opportunity, but the door is always open for you. We're going to accept you, right? We want an opportunity to continue to win with you, and that's what you want from your GM. That's what you want from your team, right? Free agents like to see that as well.
How are we getting our best 5 guys out there, and where does AVT fit in that puzzle? Because we know we can play 4 of those spots at a high level. But again, the one thing we don't want to do is, a blessing can sometimes be his curse, his versatility. And what we don't want to do moving forward is move him around. It's, hey, this is the best spot for you. You stay here and be the best tackle, guard, whatever, in the NFL.
The Jets are going to be looking for more cornerstone pieces up front along that offensive line. They think they have one in Elijah Vera-Tucker. What do you think about the stance here that they want to find a permanent home for AVT?
I think that's great. Again, like I said before, you want those things from your GM. And I always say this, right? As a guy that's had injuries, it's tough, right? To come back and not feel supported. So when your GM is in the offseason supporting you, saying we want you to be here long term, it's going to really make you want to come back and be the best player you can be.
Good analysis, Q. The Jets are certainly embracing the moment. A critical offseason is ahead.
Don't go anywhere. We're about to break out our perfect Jets offseason grid. We're going to be right back. Join On Location for every draft hat moment. Visit NFLOnLocation.com to learn more. Jets have acquired some major pieces throughout free agency, so we're looking at the top 3 in franchise history. Coming in at number 3, guard Alan Faneca signed with the Jets in 2008 and would go on to anchor a line that got 20 rushing touchdowns and earned him a Pro Football Hall of Fame induction in 2021. At number 2, we have center Kevin Mawai, who was signed by the Jets in 1998 and made 6 consecutive Pro Bowls while with the Green and White. Finally, at number 1, we have running back Curtis Martin signing with the Jets in 1998, who would go on to set the Jets record for total rushing yards with 10,302 and total touchdowns with 58. Martin tied the NFL record for most 1,000-yard seasons from the start of career with 10, 7 of those coming with the Jets, and he was inducted into the Jets Ring of Honor in 2010. Welcome back to Jets Overtime, the free agency preview. We're going to dive right into a new segment with the guys. We're having Quincy, EA, and Ethan all fill out their ideal offseason grid for the Jets. So they'll be picking an offensive lineman, a wide receiver, and a position of their choosing that they want the Jets to target through free agency or through the draft. Quincy, start us off.
Yeah, so I'm going to start here by telling you guys I got a little bit of insider information on this one. I went to high school with Tyron Smith. That's going to be my pick for the Cowboys, right? It's okay. It's okay.
That's a fun fact.
It not only is it favoritism, but it's the right choice right here, right? Even though he's had some injury concerns, he continues to come back and still be a great piece for that offensive line for the Cowboys. So I think he'll be a great decision for the Jets.
I don't have any insider information, and I did not go to high school with Jonah Williams, but that's who I'm going to go with. The best ability is availability. Over the past 3 seasons for the Cincinnati Bengals, Jonah Williams, 49 starts. Also, I like his age. He's 26 years old, so he can help you in the present and moving forward.
I'm actually sharing a brain with Quincy. My selection is Tyron Smith, and simply because he's the best tackle available. I understand the durability concerns, the age concerns, but just last season, Pro Football Focus had him number 4 overall in terms of tackle play with a minimum of 50% of the snaps. You just want a player that can step in and play well, protect Aaron Rodgers. And I also will say that if you sign a guy, it also means that you could double down in the draft.
Right. The Jets definitely do need that versatility, though, at right tackle, left tackle. So, Quincy, now we're going to go to wide receivers. Hit me with yours.
Yeah, so this obviously is my expertise right here, right? So I went with Marquise Hollywood Brown. This guy, he's a smaller receiver, but he plays outside and he plays big. He's able to go up and get the ball. You can also put on some end arounds. He's a precise route runner. This is a guy you need on the opposite side of Garrett Wilson. I like him on the Jets team.
All right, I'm going to go away from Hollywood and go down to Jacksonville. How about Calvin Ridley? He had more than 1,000 yards receiving last year for the Jaguars, and Ridley is a guy I think would do very well with Aaron Rodgers. We saw it in training camp last year. Aaron Rodgers can get the ball down the field. Ridley, good route runner, and he's a vertical threat.
I hear everything you guys are saying. We got Hollywood, which I think is actually Hollywood, Florida. That's where he got the nickname. You got Jacksonville. I want to go to Gainesville. I'm going the draft route here. Give me Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. This is a player. He was great in the Senior Bowl. He was great at the Combine. Daniel Jeremiah has him in his top 50 prospects. He said he's a day 1 starter. I just think that when you look at the receivers, both of who you said, very good options, you're going to have to pay money for those guys. With a guy like Ricky Pearsall or any of the day 2 wide receivers, you'd get him on a rookie contract, and hypothetically, they'd be able to start day 1 as well.
Okay, so some good players for that wide receiver need. Now, wild card spot. You can go anywhere. You can double down on offensive line. You could double down on wide receiver. Quincy, where are you going?
So I think on this one, I'm going with Jacoby Brissett. The Jets have faced him 2 years in a row, and each time he's given them fits. But this guy is obviously a commander in the backfield, a guy that's going to help you win games. God forbid your starting quarterback gets out of the game.
I'm going to go up front. Let's go to Miami. Robert Hunt. He's a mauler. He's a guy who's been playing right guard for the Dolphins. Jonah Williams is more of an established pass protector. I'll go Hunt here because I think he's really going to help the run game and Breece Hall.
I'm also going to go with the guard, but I'm going to stick in the AFC North. I'm going to go with Kevin Zeitler. You want to know with free agents what you have in that player. He's been successful everywhere he's played. And for me, now you're looking at an offensive line in my scenario where you have Tyron Smith, Kevin Zeitler. AVT can play left guard where he played as a rookie or right tackle, and Joe Tippmann. Then the draft comes. I think you're sitting pretty.
Now, those are some great players for the Jets' areas of need. Now, those were 3 offseason grids for the Jets from these guys, but we asked reporters around the Combine last week what their offseason grid for the Jets would be. Take a look.
All right, Matt, we're putting you on the spot. Magical grid time.
Danny Kelly's perfect Jets offseason.
Wide receiver category, offensive line category, and then a question. You can go anywhere you want.
So let's say Olu Fashanu.
And that's plug and play left
That's plug and
tackle.
play right now.
So I'm going with Olu Fashanu.
You say Joe Douglas? Go up and get Joe Alt
Go up
out
and
of
get
Notre
your guy.
Dame.
Yes.
And then we're going to get Joe Alt from Notre Dame.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're going to get
I think
him
Jets
back.
fans would be happy with that.
Let's find a way to get Joe Alt. I don't know how you're going to be able to do it, right?
I
You
love
need
it.
him. You need him to fall. You need to get creative. My pick would be Joe Alt, but I'm actually going to go with Talize Fuaga.
Let's keep it 100, as the kids say. I think they said that, right, Ethan?
Yes, they do.
So let's do Fuaga.
I think probably right. Tyron Smith is your best plug and chug guy, and you think you're gonna get a good year from him.
Third round is still going to be a good spot to grab like a receiver.
I'll see a lot of people have been saying this.
Yeah.
Wide receiver, we're going to go with Ricky Pearsall.
Okay, so we're
the
looking
Gator.
So I'm going to stay with Ricky Pearsall.
Okay.
I want to be realistic, right? So we'll go with Slick Rick Pearsall
Yep.
in the third round.
Malik Washington
Okay.
from Virginia.
We're going to trade up into the second round, okay?
Okay, love it.
We're going to trade up and we're going to get Malachi Corley
Okay.
out of Western Kentucky.
Third round, fourth round, Jamari Thrash from Louisville
Okay.
is a really talented guy. It's just to be clear, I don't know this. All right, we'll go Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Wild card pick for me. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do Javon Kinlaw.
You say any interior offensive lineman who has played in the outside zone.
Just come on in. We're gonna have open tryouts. I'll sign 10 of them. You know, just put them all on the roster.
My wild card, I think I would go back to the offensive line. And the spot that I would grab is Michael Owenu, the New England Patriots tackle/guard.
But I'm going to give you another name.
Yeah.
We'll go Zach Center of Michigan.
Oh, how about this one? Marquise Brown. Maybe you double up at receiver.
I want Brock Bowers.
Just because name's in my head, Case Keenum.
There you go.
There we go. Put my name at the top.
Jordan Reed. There it is right there.
There it is.
That's a good looking.
Offensive line.
Coming up after the break, Quincy checks out the tapes of a few free agents and what he likes for the Jets.
Welcome back to Jets Overtime. Eric Allen and Quincy Enunwa here inside the studios here at One Jets Drive. Our free agency preview is presented by Moody's. Q, you are our former receiver. Let's start inside the film room talking about receivers. And we're going to start with a former Bear. That's Darnell Mooney. His production has fallen off, but you still see some good things on film.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a lot of inconsistency around him, right? He's got a quarterback that wasn't always in the game. He had a coordinator switch, a head coach switch. We're going to show Darnell Mooney going one-on-one against a DB. And one thing I always want to point out here, if you see the DB do this, just know he's saying, I got you one-on-one.
All
He's
right.
talking to the safety. So once you know that, okay, now it's time for me to be prepared to win. So he's doing a good job, head down, and he gives himself some space. So a lot of times you'll see receivers, they'll be pushed all the way to the sideline. He does a good job of leaving himself some room, and then this is what I like here, with the hand fighting. So a lot of times with this hand fighting, it gets guys confused, but he does a really good job of playing with the hand fighting and then pushing off at the end very subtly so that he can get this ball with a little bit of separation.
Just 31 catches last year, but in 2021, he eclipsed 1,000 yards receiving. How about Marquise Hollywood Brown? He started his career with the Baltimore Ravens last year, was flying with the Cardinals in Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. And so these two guys have similar body types, right? But they do two different things, right? Marquise Brown down at the bottom, a great job of setting this up. So all my young receivers that are watching this, it's really important to play with leverage. So this DB is lined up here. Marquise Brown does a good job of knowing, okay, I need to set this up. And what a great job of using his hands. You see what the hands does. It throws the DB off balance, and now he gets to show his speed. And not only is he running fast and pulling away, but he's running fast and pulling away while looking back. You're running faster while you're looking ahead, but he's still pulling away while looking back. This is a talented receiver right here.
Quincy, you ready for it? Free agency is about to begin. There's a 2-day negotiating period that commences Monday. Then free agency officially starts 4 p.m. Wednesday. Awesome show. Can't wait to see what Joe Douglas and the Jets do here this spring. But for Caroline Hendershot, Ethan Greenberg, and of course, Quincy Enunwa, I'm Eric Allen. Enjoy the start of the shopping season.